I'm a visionary, I'm a dreamer, and a doer. I'm an entrepreneur.
This project is titled Visionary. You talked about having vision. How do you define visionary?
I define visionary as just setting your own path, not necessarily following the scripted one and what someone else is telling you. That's not being a visionary. You're a follower. Or So when you can sit back and say, you know what, I have an idea. I know what's best for me. I know what the world needs. I know what's going to make a difference. I know what's innovative. I know what's new. I know what's exciting. That's what a visionary is. That's the definition of visionary.
This project is a 10-year vision of mine, starting here in Florida, in Orlando, getting a letter and saying, I'm not enough. Sitting in a house, wanting to go use drugs, wanting to escape what I felt. Listening to God say, that's not who you are. That's not what you need. You have the ability to go create the vision that I'm giving you. You got the ability to actually go do it. Now, if you didn't have the ability to go create this, then you would have an excuse to run away. This is an opportunity for you to prove something to yourself and to prove something to your community. And that's how visionary became. That's how visionary filmmaker Savon Zell became himself right there in that moment, sitting in an old house that my neighborhood house on the east side of Jacksonville, Florida. I got that letter and I sat in the house because I thought it was my acceptance. So I was excited to get the letter because I'm like, okay, I'm starting school in spring. So when I opened it, I wasn't looking for that. I was looking to go to school. But when I opened it up and I found that, and I saw this letter for Cedric Von Zell Collins, and I said, maybe it's this name that I type into the computer or Google is what's keeping me from getting these opportunities. Maybe I need to recreate myself, and Visionary Filmmaker was born. So as a business leader and mentor, I got a couple questions for you. What was your first impression of meeting Cedric? Because like you said, when we was on the BeltLine, you wasn't meeting Visionary Filmmaker Savon Zell.
Right.
You was meeting me.
Right.
You met me. So
Right.
what was your first impression of meeting Cedric?
Man, meeting Cedric, first impression, cool dude. Like, I mean, straight up. Like, I just, relatable, personable, inquisitive, as a filmmaker you should be, you know what I mean? But, that was my first impression, and, I could tell that you were, eager to learn more about me. And that says a lot about a person. We've all been in rooms where maybe you've met someone and you can tell they're talking to you just because they're being polite. And they really don't care about who you are or whatever, or they may have their objective. It was very clear that, you wanted to understand who I was as a person. And, just from that very beginning, that allowed me to be like, okay, here's somebody I want to rock with. You know what I mean? Because of that mutual feeling.
How did Cedric's vision or determination stand out compared to others you work with?
Cedric's vision, he sees stuff that others don't see. When he'll explain how he's in a room, and he's been in, like I said, rooms with me, and he's sitting back and peeping so much stuff. And honestly, I don't think I've ever met anybody like that. Even when I think of people who pick up cameras, a lot of time they're very, very prescriptive and very, okay, what's my shot list, whatever. And I feel like some of their magic may come in, when they're editing. But Cedric's vision comes in from the very beginning. And it may be, 4 or 5 settings or events before he even brings a camera. It's like he's sitting back and he's understanding the bigger picture instead of the rush to let's capture content. And with that, for me, it's really allowed me to really understand, like, wow, here's somebody that's seeing from a bigger picture about me and what I'm doing, and actually coming back to me and telling me things that I don't know, how people are reacting to me, how he sees my future in things. And I've met nobody that picks up a camera and does that. And now that I'm talking to myself, this is why he is, a filmmaker and not just a videographer. Like, they're totally different.
What unique qualities or perspectives does Cedric bring to the business world?
One of the unique perspectives that Cedric brings, and especially if you think about the subject, and let's take me as the subject. I've seen him do it, so I know when he tells me later he did it, it's not a lie. He's in these rooms, again, without his camera, and I won't say he's not pitching me. What is the word I'm trying to say here? He is, elevating me, putting me on the platform, making sure people know who I am. Bringing people and say, you need to meet Darrell Booker, or walking up to strangers and be like, do you know Darrell Booker? Or you need to meet Darrell Booker. And, I appreciate that because, I feel like that's a lot of him connecting with me as a person, but I think also as a filmmaker, that's him really championing for who his subject is. And no different than actors get ready for a role and they dive in and they become someone else, and not only physical appearance but whole mindset, they become someone else and really dive in. I see how he does that as a filmmaker and really make sure that he is putting himself in the shoes of who's watching it and who's going to want to watch it because he's champion for that subject.
Over a period of time, I've talked about maybe taking Black and White, becoming a nonprofit. I've talked about, coming and wanting to work for a big brand. It's numerous things. What challenges did you witness Cedric face as he built his company, and how did he overcome them?
The challenge that I've seen him face has been, how does he compete with, a big agency? And especially in the rooms that he is wanting to work with when it's other corporations, the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts, the name goes on. They typically go to these bigger agencies, for content. And that, for most people, is extremely intimidating. They're not even going to try because it's like, I can't even attempt to do this. And what I've seen him do is work to build those relationships on that human level, just like he did with me, with these people, so that they actually saw his talent and what he brought to the table and waited and let them come to the determination that, shoot, Cedric can do the same thing as this glossy deck that I'm getting from this big agency that's claiming he can do the same thing. And not only can he do it, he can do it more authentic. He really knows me and us and what we're doing. And he really understands the vision, and he cares. He's empathetic. He's not doing it just for a check. And that's a huge challenge to overcome. That's a lot to have the perseverance to stick with it, because it could be very, very intimidating and could really turn someone off from continuing down that pathway.
I've had opportunities to be with you, and one of my most noteworthy one, Martha's Vineyard. Walking into the LVMH house and to now go to Art Basel and walk back into the LVMH house, and for their team to recognize me is because of you. Sometimes when I think about how the reach of relationships and how there's these relationships that if you're with the right people, going into the right rooms, you'll become one of the people.
Thanks.
And for me, that's been something that I've been able to take that and make that into one of my networking principles. Can you share an example of a time Cedric demonstrated extraordinary leadership or resilience?
Man, I don't even know if this is classified as leadership or stuff. I kind of think it is, but at Martha's Vineyard, the fact that and I forgot something from a schedule standpoint. I think I had to leave early or something, and the Disney, ESPN, ABC family was there, and for him to embrace them, my producer, the team that I've been working with, and to take care of them. Matter of fact, he picked us up from the airport. Me and the producer, we was on the same flight. He picked us up, and I'll never forget. We had got off, and we was trying to figure it out, and I told Zinga, I was like, "No, my guy coming to pick us up." She was like, "Really? That's so good." And just from that moment, taking care of them. And then, like I said, I think it was a situation I had to leave early. And, for him to come back and told me, or I heard, he took care of them, he drove them around, he took them to the airport. To me, that's leadership. And it may not be the typical answer of leadership, but it's basically saying, you know what, in this moment, I'm an extension of Darrell. And these are his people. Let me take it upon myself to put myself in this position and lead and make sure that they're taken care of, because that's what a leader does.
Man, that's so big. And this is a triumph. I feel like I got 9 lives. I'm on my 10th life. This is more about second chances, but not asking for anything.
Right.
See, I went in and I put the work in first.
Yeah.
I came in, I didn't mention any of this to you until now.
Yeah.
And I've been knowing you over 5 years.
Yeah.
I came in leading with let the work speak volumes.
Yeah.
Let the transformation come at the end.
Yeah.
The story would have more impact if we came in and said we were willing to put a number of years in worth of work and then say, how can you support further? How has Cedric's story impacted your view of second chances and hiring individuals with non-traditional backgrounds?
Cedric should be the book, the example, the master class on what it means for someone to step into a new part of their life. And I say that to say, it wasn't until relatively recently, over, if you think we got a 5-year history, relatively recently, that I even knew his past. And to me, that says a lot right there, I was first impression, great guy, whatever. He's a filmmaker. Like, that's what he does. Like, there's absolutely nothing in any personal interaction or professional interaction that would have even remotely had me believe that he had any type of trouble with no law, locked up, juvenile, nothing. I mean, nothing. I mean, it's more professional than the most professional people think they are. And, that reason alone is, for me, why we should be really looking differently at anyone that may have been in the system. Like, we all know there's people in the system that even shouldn't have been there, whether it's wrongly accused or the justice system is not set up for certain people anyway. So sometimes we either look at the circumstance and say, was they even supposed to be there? But then we also now have to understand that the system was created for rehabilitation. So if someone is rehabilitated, then they're rehabilitated. Why are we talking about or looking at them for what it was? You know what I mean? I've gone through a form of rehabilitation. I used to suffer from depression, but not now. No one's holding me against being a depressed person. That was something that I went through. So, for him to be where he is, like I said, doing the type of work he is with major corporations, being in the rooms that he's in, I think is extraordinary, and I think it's just a really great example of how we even need to pour into him more, because true definition of, finding that moment in time to quote unquote turn your life around. be a productive citizen, all those things that a judge may say to someone when they're sentencing them. He did it. He did it to the nth degree. So we really need to make sure we get this man all his due flowers.
What do you think Cedric's success says about the power of redemption and resilience in business?
I mean, his success, it really shows that there's no structured path for anything. And when we think about, a business, and you got to think about him as a filmmaker, he has one of those type of careers where he himself is his business. He himself is his brand. So everything that he went through as a person is helping him to be a much better entrepreneur and a business man, because he understands there's going to be bumps in the roads. And there's going to be times when he needs to, he's sitting back and he has to, get his thoughts, and he has to plan, and he has to, not take every little thing as, a death sentence, and kind of, go from there. So, I always talk about lived experiences. Lived experiences make us better to who we are. And when you have to overcome things, when you have to be in survival mode, all those things that you have to do, that's going to make you much more successful in the professional and business space.
This particular section of interview questions were for business leaders and mentors. And with my last question, I put you as a business leader in my life. It's things that I've asked you. I remember it was times when you would say, man, put the proposal together, man. Let's just put the proposal together. And I go back to a cousin of mine, Valerie Fields. My first job was working with a PR company as a entrepreneur. My first opportunity was going to work for my cousin at her PR firm in North Carolina, in Raleigh. And day one, I'm at work. Day one, she give me a mentor, somebody who works on her team. And the day I got there, they gave me a 24-hour turnaround for a proposal. And I remember they gave me everything I needed to do for this proposal, and I panicked. And it freaked me out that I came up with a story that it was an emergency going on back home. And I needed to go back home. I remember her looking at me as I'm telling her this story that I gotta leave. It was the pressure of the proposal and me feeling unprepared that I left, went back to Jacksonville, and that was the beginning of recidivism for me. That was the beginning for me reverting back, because I had never worked in a corporate space. I had never worked for a company. She's successful. She a professor right now at North Carolina, at the University in North Carolina, teaching PR. Just wrote her own PR textbook. Like she's one of the top successful PR people in Raleigh. Got her own building in downtown. And when I look back at those moments, I got areas for family members, for business leaders and mentors, for friends and supporters, for former street friends. This last question, how has Cedric influenced or inspired the way you approach leadership and mentorship? How has Cedric influenced or inspired the way you approach leadership or mentorship?
Wow. Cedric helped me to realize that those that need mentorship come in different forms. And I say that to say I can easily pick out or understand, someone that's junior, intern, young, college age, and I immediately can see how I need to mentor them. Cedric threw me for a loop. And I say that to say because, all of the great things that he brings to the table that I mentioned, I was under the assumption, as someone similar age and things of that sort. And like I said, I thought he was, he's a filmmaker. He's been doing it. He just knows all his stuff, and just everything under the sun that wraps around, he knows it. So I had a false impression that I couldn't add more value to him. I thought he already knew. So what I realized was, you know what? There is even opportunities for me to mentor and coach him. And especially when he told me like, hey, you know, I need to hear this. I need to understand how to work with corporations and things of that sort. And that was a aha for me in terms of I can't always expect everybody due to their age or just number of years in a position or career and expect that they understand everything. And if I'm in a position to be a leader or a mentor, I have to recognize that everybody of all ages and experience could use some form of mentorship. And that was extremely eye-opening for me because when he said it, it clicked. I was like, you right, bro. You right. So many things was clicking for me, and honestly, I should have realized that before. And I had blinders on, to be honest, as to I didn't need to mentor him. I don't need to lead him, you know? So it's really helped me to, you know, look at the bigger picture with people that I'm working with, and then just finding those opportunities where it's a way for me to be able to provide some form of mentorship because we all need it. I need it, you know? So that's been the biggest change that he's allowed for me.
When you say this off topic and this closing, when you say you didn't have a mentor, what did you have?
I didn't have a mentor. I had nothing, bro. Like, and I say that from the standpoint of, you know, it's not a situation where I can say I came from a terrible household. It was a 2-parent household. You know, later in life, you know, late teens, I started to understand. All right, well, it wasn't the perfect 2-person household. I'll say that for sure. Bro, I was on an island. Like I you know, my parents moved to the county to give me that better life. I cried the first day. You think it's a great situation. Literally, when I say walk on my backyard, take 2 steps, I was in my elementary school. Like, as a parent, that was the perfect setup for your kid. But to go and then now I walk in, I'm the only black in the class. And I cried. To, you know, one day we coming home and I see a cross burning in our yard. And I knew something was wrong. I didn't know exactly what that. I knew it was because we was black. And, you know, throughout school, continuing to be isolated because I was black and I was in honors classes, so that tripled. Like I was the only one, and there was literally, like, I can't name a single person I was looking up to, you know, whether anybody in family or friends or, you know, a select, like there was nobody, there was nothing. So what did I have? I had me and my thoughts. And you may say, well, Darrell, that worked out good for you, but there was a period of time when it didn't for me. Because guess what? When you're in your own thoughts, that leads to a lot of bad thoughts. Mm-hmm. And it leads to, you know, a lot of questioning and not just having anything to follow or understand. And that's what led to some depression at some point. And yeah, man, I just had to build my own path. And I'm not even saying that from a standpoint I recommend it for everyone else. Like, I don't recommend it for no one. And I think that's why I go so hard with especially mentoring young people. Because ain't nobody come to me, speak to me, you know, about this, about career pathways, like a real thing. Like it was the, you know, career day when, you know, the firefighters would come and someone like that. But somebody that looked like me and kick it with me and get to understand and show me pathways and, you know, didn't have that. That's why I'm very vocal when I speak to youth. And, you know, they understand all the things he's done. And, yeah, I'm leading this major thing at the world's largest tech company. And I'd be like, yeah, but I don't have no degree, too. I love telling them that because I love helping them to understand that there's no perfect path. You know, someone like me could make some mistakes, but it's how do you learn and grow from them? And when you're lucky to have some mentors, embrace them. Embrace them. I tell youth all the time, if I'm on a panel with some adults and some kids, I will make sure I say, y'all need to embrace this moment. These are people who are pouring into you. your teachers that brought you here, they're pouring into you. You need to accept that and you need to take the advantage of it because there's a lot of people who don't have that opportunity. I didn't have that opportunity. And when you get to a certain age, about 17, 18, 19, that's when adults are allowed to not pour into you no more. So you gotta be able to take advantage of it when you have it. But if you don't, this world nowadays, when you open up your phone and you just seeing all these things and people doing all these things, like I really, really fear for those who don't have someone that could be a mentor. I don't want someone to be like me. I'm lucky.
I'm gonna say you chosen. And the reason why I'm gonna say you chosen because I was one of the people who chose you, and a lot of people who have chose you, it was because you was chosen and you chose you. Had you not chose you, had you not decided that you could journey through these obstacles and choose yourself and feel enough self-worth along the way to say that you could do it, maybe we wouldn't be sitting here today, bro.
That's facts. Chosen be the chosen one. Mic drop.
Visionary filmmaker Savon Zell. We're in Orlando at EA Sports. I'm here, representing with my man Darrell Booker, man. It's just an honor to be next to this brother, man, and see him in action, see how he pours into the community. But this is a time where he getting to interview me, so he behind the camera right now. He behind the camera, so let's get to it.
Why do you call yourself visionary filmmaker?
My reason for calling myself visionary filmmaker, it isn't me calling myself. I think I was born with the personality of an ENTP. And when I learned about the personality ENTP, the word was visionary. That's how I found it. And the more I started to study my personality and learn about who I was as a person, it always pointed to visionary. And so visionary filmmaker as a brand became more of me taking the art of film, using visionary as a path. And so that's why when I say I go with leaders, or if I'm going on a journey with a Darrell Booker and I see where things are going, I think visionary is that I see where things are going. I saw where Black people in technology would be this next big thing. And so early on, when they were talking about it was no people in technology, I felt like I could disrupt that process of thinking. Like I said, no, it's gotta be people in technology. Let me go and find them. And that was 2016, 2015, when they were saying that, it's 1, 2, 3% Black people in technology. And that's what led me to the Black Tech Mecca. I coined it the Black Tech Mecca Atlanta back in 2016 and created a short film that was in Bronze Lens Film Fest and around the country. So visionary filmmaker was bestowed upon me. And if you look at what a visionary filmmaker is, it's actually a real title in the film world.
When you talk about, since 2015, 2016, and, as that visionary, wanting to document this story around tech, what kept you so persistent to continue traveling, continue finding the right people to not only just document, but tell the right story?
I think it started with research. What kept me consistent with traveling and creating a story, it started first with research, looking at people. I was seeing them, and I felt like I wasn't a part of that world. I felt like if it was me coming from my community, how many people like me coming from the Black community didn't know a Darrell Booker, didn't know a Jewel Burke Solomon, didn't know technologists. And if walking down the street If Darrell Booker walked down the street from me, would I know that he was a technologist working for Microsoft? No, I wouldn't. I would consider that he was something else when I seen these Jordans you got on and this jean shirt. You would be perceived by me as somebody other than the technology. So I didn't know what that looked like. And so the traveling came from me wanting to be in every room. I feel like when I was at Afrotech or every conference around the country, if you knew me or you saw me somewhere and you said, I know that guy. I know him. That's the visionary filmmaker guy. After being seen over and over and over and over and over, it's like a commercial. McDonald's run commercials, and commercials are ran over and over because you're trying to build a brand. And so I think for me, early on, I wanted to build a brand. I did research. I felt like seeing is believing. So I needed to be seen to be believed that I can do this. And I think it just builds character, man. If you're willing to drive and you're willing to put the hours in and you get to see the whole country, it's gonna make me into a new person. And I think that's what it's done.
What's next for the visionary?
What's next for the visionary is that I believe that we are at an inflection point. I believe we've gotten to a point where we've done so much work. We've created so much access and opportunity in the technology space. Now it's time for us to peel it back, show the people who have invested into technology the work we've done. Imagine Darrell Booker's organization doing a week where he brought in all of the nonprofits around the country. He brought in all of his peers that worked for Microsoft to help him with these organizations. And he brought in the leadership from Microsoft to sit and hear some of these testimonies, to hear some of these stories, to hear some of this impact. And so for me, this is the year of ROI. This is a year where we create ROI. We show that if you invested in technology or you invest in an organization to make impact, we will show you the work we've done over the last 5 to 10 years. And so for me, I'm rolling out a 10-minute film because I got a 10-minute film for the people who don't want to sit for an hour. And I do some screenings around the country, starting with HBCUs. This 10-minute piece will be ready February. Then I'll do a 45-minute docu-series release. That's in July. And so right now, man, it's just showing all the work we've done, what's behind us. And we're gonna lead with that first. We're going forward with the work that we've done. We're going forward with all the places we've been, all the people we've met, to give you a better picture, because you see me and you might not know what I do because you see me in all these places, but when I bring it forth for you to see it, and I think that's the magic. At some point, you have to show people the credibility. You have to show people the sweat equity. You have to show people the network, and you gotta show them the body of work. If you don't show them the body of work, how can you be a visionary if you don't show them the body of work? And so for me, it's now time for me to bring it full circle.
Check the itinerary, young mogul. I'm a visionary, I'm a dreamer and a doer. I'm an entrepreneur.